Hello everyone, and welcome back to our Revenue Cycle Management series. Last time, we took a high-level tour of the entire revenue cycle, and we talked about how it turns patient care into actual revenue. Today, we're going to dive deep into the very beginning of that journey: patient scheduling, registration, and insurance verification. These front-end processes, well, they lay the groundwork for what's called a clean claim. Basically, a claim that gets paid on the first try, no errors. And they pretty much determine how quickly your organization gets paid.
All right, so let's get right into it. Why do we start here? Because honestly, getting the front end right is absolutely fundamental to the financial health of any healthcare practice. You can think of it as the first and maybe the most important step to preventing all sorts of problems down the line.
You know, this quote from revenue cycle experts just perfectly captures the mindset we need to have. The revenue cycle isn't something that just happens after a patient is treated. No, it's a proactive strategy that kicks off the very moment a patient decides they need care.
So just how critical is all this? I mean, what really happens when things go wrong at this first stage? Well, the impact is way bigger than you might think, and it touches nearly every single part of the cycle that comes after it.
And here is the absolute crucial point. A huge percentage, we're talking sometimes up to 80% of all denied claims, are because of simple errors made right here at the front end. Incomplete or incorrect data is the #1 bad guy, and it leads to delayed payments, frustrated staff having to do rework, and a direct hit to your bottom line. Taking a little extra time to be meticulous up front saves an incredible amount of time and money later. It really does.
Okay, so let's break the process down, starting with the very first point of contact: scheduling and pre-registration.
Now, what's so interesting here is that scheduling is so much more than just booking a time on a calendar. This is your first real data collection opportunity. You're gathering basic demographics, you're finding out why the patient is coming in, and you're even starting to set financial expectations by talking about potential copays or deductibles.
And this is where pre-registration becomes a total game changer. By sending patients electronic forms to fill out before they even arrive, you do two amazing things. First, you make their check-in process way faster and a lot less stressful. And second, you give your team a valuable head start on verifying their insurance coverage.
So with that initial data in hand, the patient arrives at the check-in desk, and we move to the next critical phase: capturing complete and, this is the most important part, accurate patient registration details.
These steps might seem like basics, right? But trust me, this is where tiny mistakes create huge problems. We're not just collecting a name. We need the full legal name, exactly as it appears on their insurance card. Every single detail, from the date of birth to the policy number, has to be perfect.
And this just hammers home the stakes. A simple typo, one transposed number in a policy ID, an incorrect date of birth, any one of these tiny little mistakes is enough for an insurance payer to deny the whole claim. The margin for error here is razor thin.
So, how do you make sure you get it right? You build a solid process. You scan the actual cards to avoid typing errors. You verbally confirm the information with the patient right then and there. You always ask if anything has changed since their last visit. And you take just a moment to review their plan to spot any potential issues.
This brings us to the final, vital piece of the front-end puzzle: confirming that the patient's insurance is actually active and getting approval for any planned services.
Look, eligibility verification is just non-negotiable. You have to confirm that the policy is active on the day of the appointment. People change jobs, insurance plans change. You can't just assume the coverage is the same. Real-time eligibility tools are an absolute must-have here for getting an immediate yes or no from the payer.
And then there's the big one: prior authorization. So what is it? It's basically getting pre-approval from the insurance company. They're agreeing ahead of time that a specific service is medically necessary and that they will consider it for payment.
And let's be crystal clear about this. Even if a service is 100% medically necessary, failing to get that prior authorization number means the insurer can and almost definitely will deny the claim. It is one of the most costly and frankly avoidable mistakes in the entire revenue cycle.
Okay, we've walked through the whole process, so now let's put it all together into an actionable blueprint for building a really rock-solid front-end operation.
These 5 tips are your keys to success. First, invest in training your staff. Payer rules are always changing. Second, create simple checklists to make sure everything is done consistently. Third, use technology for real-time verification. Fourth, always confirm the details directly with the patient. And finally, track your data.
If you see denials coming from a specific error, you've found the root cause you need to fix.
Now, let's just zoom out for a second and see how everything we've talked about creates this powerful ripple effect that flows through the rest of the revenue cycle.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It really shows the two paths you can go down. When the front end is accurate, you get clean claims, you get paid faster, and you have happy patients. But when it's full of errors, you get denials, delayed revenue, extra costs, and a massive burden on your billing team who has to clean up the whole mess. The choice is pretty clear.
So ultimately, this is the main takeaway. Every single step in scheduling and registration isn't just administrative work. It's a critical financial event that directly impacts your cash flow, your efficiency, and even the patient's experience with your organization.
So, once the patient is all checked in and verified, what happens next? Well, in our next deep dive, we're going to follow that journey from the front desk into the clinic and see how patient care gets translated into billable charges. And that wraps up our look at scheduling, registration, and eligibility verification. In our next explainer, we'll move deeper into the revenue cycle to explore clinical documentation and charge capture. That's the bridge between patient care and billing. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, please hit that subscribe button and leave your questions for us down in the comments.